Welcome to the Wellness Law Podcast, where wellness and the law meet for contemplation and collaboration. This podcast is brought to you by the Center for Health and Wellness Law. I am your host, Barbara Zabawa. Welcome to the Wellness Law Podcast, everyone. I would love to have you meet Dr. Romie Morales Rosado. She has a PhD in applied math. She's a data scientist. She's the owner of Legacy Nova, and that's a company that does a lot of things, helps with national security, helps with advising leaders and organizations about their data and signals to understand potential consequences. And I'll let her, of course, explain it more and better to you. But let me just preface that the reason why I wanted Dr. Rosado on the podcast is because after speaking with her, I realized workplace wellness needs to have more data science. It needs to leverage data. It needs to collect better data and understand the data it does collect better for purposes of preventing problems in the first place. And that is exactly the world that Dr. Rosado lives in. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Rosado.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for having me here. I was actually looking forward to speaking with you. And so I'm very excited. Yes, to answer your question a bit, I primarily help institutions make better decisions in an increasing complex world, right? As like every time we have more advances in technology and a lot of leadership, they want to understand what is the role that this new technology plays within their organization and what should they adapt? How should they adapt it? What information should they include and how it will benefit not only their organization, but their staff moving forward and putting forward the best product possible. So I definitely believe in that proactive layer. So I help leaders primarily understand where are the emerging signals and how to better identify them in order to make sure that they don't become an issue later on. And by later on, I mean the following week or the following month, because things move rather quickly nowadays.
And what I love about the work you do, I think I mentioned this before we hit record, it's in this space that I like to work in as a lawyer, which is preventive law. I call it preventive law, as opposed to reacting to a problem that's already occurred. Let's try to prevent the problem from occurring in the first place. And your world is about looking at the data for signals for potential problems before those problems appear, and then making a plan on how to address the signals so that those problems do not appear. And in the workplace wellness context, that is ideal. You don't want the employee to file a lawsuit saying that you violated their right to privacy or their right to under the Americans with Disabilities Act or the Affordable Care Act or whatever. You want the employee to feel good about the wellness program that you are implementing, that you are spending all kinds of money on. And so to do that, why not collect the data and then understand the data and tailor a program to what exactly your organization needs based on that data? What do you think about that?
You hit it right in the nail. And one of the things that we do quite a bit is making sure that you have a lot of platforms, right? And you work with a platform most likely, and you just hit buttons and execute. A lot of times we have to understand how we are communicating, right? We call it the lexicon. Do we have a clear set of definitions that we all can reference to and work from? So that's, even though it sounds like ever, it's very important within the process. So everybody starts from the same playing field. So that way they have a key understanding and things doesn't necessarily explode towards the end. The other thing is what I call it, how are we collecting the data? Are we collecting the data in a way that if a person that just works with data or just works with data modeling can definitely leverage it and put it together? And then a person that is the user can definitely understand it in the way that was intended to be used. And a lot of times we have discovered is that they're not really talking to each other and they're not connecting. So that's a very big piece of the puzzle, making sure that we have that connective tissue, as I call it, to signal the right information. So as the staff member, if you are really understanding the information and being able to pass it to the data person, then it becomes clearer to be able to surface certain signals that could hopefully not, because we live in the preventive side of the story, but that could become a harmful or that could become something that is an issue or a problem later on. So that is primarily some of the things that we do, like revising the platform, doing that forensic analysis of how things work and making sure that all the parties involved had a true understanding of how the process actually works. And I think this has been vital for organizations across the board and for leaders to make sure that the staff also is equipped so that way they are able to move the needle forward, protecting themselves, not be in a situation that is harmful for them, and be productive. Because at the end of the day, you want to be in a job that you are producing the best capability possible and you're looking forward to staying as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and the point of a workplace wellness program is to give people purpose, to give people meaning, to people are there to produce. And so, yeah, if you can leverage that data to help them produce more without burning out, without feeling like they're working in a toxic environment, that would be a win-win, I think, for both employee and employer. But I wanted to say that in the wellness programs, workplace wellness programs are known for collecting data. They collect data mostly through biometric screens, health risk assessments. They're collecting employee health data. I don't know to what degree they collect other types of data, but this might be an opportunity for wellness programs to really look at, are we missing out by not enlisting the services of somebody like Dr. Rosado, who is a data scientist, who could help us collect the right kind of data? Maybe we're not even collecting the right kind of data to create the most optimal employee wellness program for our organization. Could we hire somebody like her to help us figure out what is that data? And then once we collect it, how do we use it to create an environment and a program that really will improve employee well-being?
Yes, 100%. What I have seen is that a lot of organizations and leaders are starting to make the decision to get technical strategic advisors or executive advisors that have a technical background, primarily in data science, because they want to have that understanding of how everything is coming together. And part of when you mention wellness, I think it's very important to understand when we are collecting data, how we are collecting it is very important. And if the data can speak to each other, can we connect? If we're collecting information in group A, for example, is can we converge it or connect it to group B, and then what information can we surface from there as well? So that's something that some organizations are starting to note, that a lot of them are not speaking to each other and they need somebody to be that connective tissue to make sure that this information is being connected. And then if there's some signals or there's some variables that we're like, oh, we're having that aha moment, this could become a problem later on, then we can actually see it earlier than when the problem becomes. So that's another thing that we do a lot. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we come in to work with different capacities, right? To execute a different job. Somebody might come as an operator, somebody might come as the part one that puts the product together, and then somebody comes as the project manager, and then you have the one that is leading everything. And you are looking at the information data that is being collected with that particular lens. So it might be that the information could be missed or could be lost depending on who is looking at it. So part of this process is us coming from all of those different perspectives and making sure that we have, like you mentioned, we're collecting the data in the right way. So when we're trying to analyze it and put it together, we're really surfacing it across the board and not just to serve let's say, leadership, or not just to serve the operator in this particular case, right? And depending where we want to live, if we want to live in HR, we want to make sure that we serve HR in a vertical and horizontal way. And that's part of what we make sure that when we connect with different organizations, that we make sure that we do that holistic approach so it's completely comprehensive.
Oh, I love it. So, yeah, I think I'll amend what I said a little earlier. It's not necessarily, it could be, but not necessarily collecting new data. It could be the data that's already being collected by the organization, including the employee wellness data, but pairing that with other data sets that the company's already collecting in other departments. And then you, as the connector, you're the one who puts the connective tissue between all of those data sets. And that tells a story then. And if we
Correct.
tell the story of how is our employee well-being doing? What is the current status of our employee well-being? Using these multiple data sets from across the organization, perhaps that can tell us a story that we have not considered before. And then look for the signals that you identify and then adapt to the program, the wellness program, to address those signals in a preventive way before the lawsuit's filed, before a complaint is lodged, so that you truly are trying to improve employee well-being.
Exactly. That is,
Love it.
yeah, no, definitely correct. Because we do a lot of organizations, and they will tell you they have more data that they think they want or they can handle. And that's primarily the things that we want to do and address. Are we making sure that we're leveraging the data the best way or the way that we were supposed? Because sometimes you mean to leverage the data in a certain way, but the way that you're leveraging is not what you're thinking you're leveraging the data for. So part of bringing a person like me or bringing me into the table is saying, hey, you are trying to answer question A, but with what you have and how you're placing it, you're addressing this other question instead. So if we want to be able to answer question A, we have to make sure that we leverage this other data set or this other information that was captured on this other side and put it together. And then we can actually answer the question that you want to address that you were thinking you were addressing, but you were not addressing. So that's part of the key here too. Because when we were talking, when we met previously, we all have the best intentions, right? We come to work with the best intentions and the different roles that we actively have. But at the end of the day, depending on how the data has been collected and constructed and presented, we will make decisions based on that. And given that if there's an ill or if there's a gap in any of these processes, you are going to make a decision with ill information. And that's where we come in. We're making sure that those gaps get reduced and we get to protect the staff, the leadership, and the institution.
That's great. I can't stress enough to anyone out there who is creating and implementing employee wellness programs to bring on board someone like you, Dr. Rosado, to make sure that you are developing and implementing the most effective program for that organization. The information is probably already there, but you need an expert who can assemble it into a story that will then resonate with the people you're trying to impact. I really applaud and admire the work that you do, and I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast today. And now, if people want to learn more about you and find out how to contact you, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can find me at legacynova.org or on LinkedIn, Romie Morales Rosado is my LinkedIn account. Or email me if they feel inspired, Romie Morales Rosado at gmail.com currently, or Romie at legacynova.org as well.
Great. Great. I encourage everyone to reach out, and thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for having me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Law Podcast. You can find more wellness law resources by visiting the Center for Health and Wellness Law website at www.wellnesslaw.com, where you can also subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media. Until the next episode, stay well, stay hopeful, and stay legal.